Ready. Okay, this is the second to last tutorial that we're going to be doing in terms of learning the overall structure of life game design. And the short-term views are what is really going to teach us what we're going to be using day to day to manage the day to day, the month to month, and a little bit beyond there. It's called short-term views because I'm really thinking about the longest time horizon of those views being until the month. When we get past thinking of our time horizon in months, that's when we get into the next tutorial, which will be year and season views. So let's go into the short-term views page from our dashboard, and we can see that it's made, if I zoom in for you, we have overdue, yesterday, today, tomorrow, this week, next 7 days, and this month. Basically, all these different views will show you your projects, tasks, and notes in relation to all of these different time periods. I built this with the inspiration from the app and task manager TickTick, but the thing and the problem with that task manager is that it can only manage your tasks. It can't manage your notes within all of these time periods together with your projects as well. So in this tutorial, you're going to see the power of Notion and life game design combined when we manage all of those things within these different time periods. So the first one that you want to be looking at is overdue projects. So if you come here, let me zoom out for you. It will show you all the projects that you have overdue, and it will tell you based on the priority, because the thing is, you're probably going to have a bunch of projects that end up being overdue here, but in reality, most of them aren't going to be very important, which is fine. You can just clear the date of them. There's a few ways we can go about clearing the things we have in here. If we put it in bucketed, it's going to disappear. If we put it in the archive, it's going to also disappear. If we set the date for a date ahead of us, obviously it's not going to be overdue, and it's going to disappear. So that's a few ways we can tackle this. I think the easiest one for me when I think about it, usually the projects that end up being overdue, they either go into one of these different status properties. Let's say I've already achieved it, or it was in awaiting and now it's in focusing, or I put it in the archive because it's something that I'm not going to be dealing with anymore. For this one, I'm just going to clear the date, and so it doesn't have a date to be overdue for, and I will just keep it in there, and that is totally fine. I can also see that same view using a different way in the gallery over here. And then I've got quick access to my calendar, so I can see and very quickly see where I want to put that date. Remember, you always have access to the tutorial views that will tell you exactly how to use this page with this toggle that's hidden very neatly. And the same thing is with tasks. Very, very straightforward. So I've got one here that says run some errands. That's overdue, but let's say I've already achieved it, so I'm just going to be putting it into achieved. That's all cleared. Cool. Now we can go on to yesterday. So yesterday is going to show you a view of this week's projects. One thing that I intentionally did with the views up to this week, so yesterday, today, and tomorrow, they will all show the same view for projects up until this week. It will show you the same view for this week's project. The reason why is because projects are something you're going to do on a week-to-week basis generally. They're going to be quite long-term things. So that's why I gave you access to looking at this week's projects in all of the singular day views like yesterday, today, and tomorrow, because if I gave you a view of just today's projects, you would probably need to reference all your projects in the week anyways. A better way to kind of hone what you need to do in today's projects is to use the status options of focusing. Yeah, just use the status option of focus to understand what you need to work on today. So whenever you have, the thing is, you're going to have things in awaiting and actioning, and whatever you've got on for today, just put it in focus for that day if you are intending to complete it that day, and that will help you organize this. So if I teach you about this now, which I will do, you'll know it for the context of all the pages following. So let's just kind of go through this week's projects and check out what it is. Again, if you forget this tutorial, you've always got the in-page guided tutorial where you can click on these, which will show you what all of these icons mean. But I'll be a big bro and help you out with that right now. Anyways, you'll notice that all of the database views that I make within Life Game Design are very similar, where you have multiple views of the same set of data. So this is grouped by status. This week's projects grouped by status. And you can see that I've added an icon just before status. And then with these ones, it doesn't say status, but it has the same icon. Pretty straightforward. That means that these are just different ways to see the same data set. And if there's a different icon, it means there's a completely different way to view it. So I can see the status of all the week's projects, and notice that I've hidden archived and bucketed because I don't want to worry about what I've archived this week or what I've put into the bucketed list this week. Again, remember, those are your status options for when you want to ignore something or when you want to save it for way far in the future. So you can see all of the things that you've achieved, what you're focusing on, what you're actioning at the moment, and what is awaiting. Cool. We can also have a board view of this, so we can really easily drag and drop these things. Let's say I put that into awaiting. And the same with here, but I can close these tabs using the gallery view just to make everything a bit more minimal and easy to manage, especially with the focusing tab here. Cool. This is really interesting. This is a day breakdown of when you're going to complete your projects. Now, there's one thing that you will have to get used to in terms of this. If I want to create a project for Monday, what day is it today? Let's double check that. So for today is Wednesday. And if I want to go in here and at the start, I would think intuitively that if I put it in Monday, it should show up in Monday. But like I've described in all of my previous tutorials, this red triangle here means that you have to read and understand the limitations that Notion has in accordance to how you're going to interact with the database here. And basically what I explain, if you hover over this, it will tell you, and if you go into the tutorial, it will tell you in depth, but I'll teach you. It will create the date based on today's date. Let me show you how I get it wrong, so then we can understand how to get it right. If I want to put something in Monday, I click that and we would expect it to show up there, but it doesn't. It appears in Wednesday, which is today's date. And that's how Notion categorizes this. It's based on what day it is today. So that means every time I put a new entry in, I have to put it into Monday using the date property here, and you'll see it there. Let me give it a name. This is Monday's project. Okay, cool. Let me give that a template. Let's call it persistence project. So now that is Monday's project. There is another thing that you have to be aware of. Again, it's explained in the tutorial, but if I have a date range, meaning that this project is going to be across multiple days, it will always add it to the start date. So automatically, the date that you set, the project date, will always be the start date. if you add an end date like this, then you can change the date where it ends. But the date that it shows up on this table here that shows the individual days will always be from this date, the start date. So if it ends on March the 8th, which is a Friday, I should not expect it to show up here. I should expect it to show up based on the start date. Really important to remember, because what you can do is add stuff to a day like Tuesday when it's Wednesday, and you'll keep on adding new things and being like, where is it? Where is my project? And then you'll start to notice, oh, it's actually over here. It's been showing up on the day that it is today. So that's why with this view, I really recommend that this is just a view you use to understand what the day breakdown of your projects is. But it's really handy to view it in this list over here. A better and more intuitive way of using this is just by going to the calendar right at the end. But as you can see, it's a lot harder to edit properties straight from here because you have to open the page to edit the properties. Whereas in this view here, I can just edit the properties very easily by going like this. So I found it handy to do that, which is why I added this in. And that's pretty much it. So you can see a really clear view of what each day will look like in terms of all the projects that you have. So you just have to keep those things in mind, that you have to, when you're making, if you're going to make new entries in here, which I don't entirely recommend, then you have to make sure you're doing it on you either adjust the date every time you add one, or you do it in a different view. You just add the date in a different view. And yeah, you just have to remember to keep mind of those things and follow the guidelines of the red check marks. These red marks over here mean that this database, you need to be careful with it. Just because of that little thing. Nothing that will break this template or anything. Cool. Now we have the priority view, and as you can see by these other red squares, that these are just different ways of looking at the same thing. So let's go through it slowly. We've got a table view of urgency, so I can see what is urgent, and important, urgent, important, and chill. Basically, this is the simplified way of using the Eisenhower matrix, using one database property. So I can instantly set and see for all the projects in my week, what is the thing that is most important and urgent. And these are really intuitive views. This one here is really cool because I can see a breakdown of the status as well, because there's going to usually be, especially for my case in my own life game design, there's always a bunch of tasks or projects that are in the actioning status. And so I want to be able to separate these out from things that are focusing and then set the priority of things that are focusing as well. Because in your life, there is going to be a lot of things that you're focusing on all at once. So you want a space for yourself to be able to figure out, even though I have all of these things that I'm focusing on, what am I actually going to do first? And this is exactly how you figure that out. You come here, you can drag and drop these to different status options. Usually everything will start at chill, which means it's like chill. And it's up to you whether you want to put it into these different categories of important, urgent, or both urgent and important. Cool. We can also see a gallery view of this, so we can close off everything that's chill, close off all this other stuff to see just the most important things. And this is really cool. When you plan your week, let's say you put in all the projects in your week using the utility views from the previous tutorial. Now we can see what our week is actually going to look like based on the OctaCore framework, which is really awesome. Let me zoom out so you can see the last thing here, which is LifeForce. So if I zoom out, I can see what are the projects that I have. And really, this is a objective level of understanding what my life will look like for the next week. And it will make me understand how I feel about the direction my life is going based on these different octa-core areas. Because remember that OctaCore is a framework for understanding fulfillment in life. And so, if you put time, effort, and energy into these different areas of life, you'll get different levels of fulfillment and different. The thing is, it's so hard for me to explain in such a short tutorial. This is why I've made a series of podcasts where I discuss these with my friends by discussing their achievements and how their achievements relate to their fulfillment and how those different areas of life relate to each other in terms of fulfillment. So, I guess just to shrink it down, if I am in a season of my life where I am just focusing on one area like experience or contribution, let's say I'm focusing only on my work at the moment, depending on who you are as a person, that is going to feel different for each and every one of you. So you have to figure out what areas of life do I find most fulfilling to focus on? And then you'll get to understand what these all mean to you. And from that, you can understand that, oh, this week I felt this type of way because I didn't focus on this area of OctaCore. Basically, for me, to put it in practical terms, if I spend a lot of time within the experience, just having leisure, when I'll be honest, for this period in my life where I've quit my job to pursue bringing life game design to the world, it's not really the biggest time for me to focus on a lot of leisurely activities because I'm burning the savings in my pocket. I'm using up all my savings from the intelligence section and pouring it into my creativity, into life game design. So really my alignment should be within creativity first and foremost. And again, specifically for me, I'm healing from a shoulder injury. And so I would expect to see a lot of achievements within strength as well. And so that's kind of how I use this framework of managing my projects that automatically tells me how I'm going to feel about how my life is going. Cool. So that's how you use this OctaCore page to, just intuitively understand how the distribution of your week is going to be and how it's going to make you feel. And then you can finally look at the achievements of your week. And let's say I have achieved these things. Let me change the status of them. Boom, boom. This is why I like the the board view, just because you're able to edit the status of these really easily. Cool. And now I can see these all pop up as achievements. I was just laughing at this meme over here that we put in the thing. And let's just say this was like a diamond achievement for me. So like creating I put this in the last tutorial, creating a training program. We just put a GIF of this dude doing some PR. And this is a really intuitive way of understanding what have been the highlights of the week, because whatever you put in the higher rankings, because remember, everything starts at bronze, so whatever we put in the higher rankings of silver, gold, and diamond will automatically give us a view of what are the most fun things we did this week, or what are the things are we most proud of that we've done this week. And yeah, you can come here and sort that out. So that is pretty much this week's projects. I know we're still in the yesterday page, but this will give you so much context as to how we move on forward from here. Cool. So it's the same, pretty much the exact same thing with tasks. And remember, we're in the yesterday page, so this is yesterday's tasks. If that confuses you, that you have this week's projects in yesterday's tasks, remember that you can just click on the blue link and it will only show you this page, just to keep things a lot more simple. So remember to use the blue pages to separate out everything from the noise. It's the same with notes. So let's go back to the main page of yesterday. And so you've got the status views of tasks. So you can see the status breakdown. You also have the priority. You can see what was the priority from yesterday if you needed to, and you can see the plan. I'm going to get into that a bit later and do some practical activities with that. You can also see what your OctaCore breakdown is within tasks, which is really cool. And you can see the achievements that you've made. This is all in relation to yesterday's tasks. Another really cool thing is that if you are playing around with a whole bunch of notes from yesterday, you can see them all lined up here. This will tell you the date that they were last edited. So that means that if I edit it now, it will disappear like that. I'll do the same with this one. You're going to see this disappear because I edited it now, and now it's not edited yesterday. So just keep that in mind when you're coming here to view these things. If I click into the page and I just scroll, it won't do anything, but as soon as I add something new, even like a space in the text, it will disappear from this view. But then you'll see it in today's notes, which is what we're going to go on next. But I'll just show you the different ways that we can see our notes. You can see it in this gallery view like this. You can also see it categorized by the different note types. So you've got idea, frameworks, website, and media. You've got the same thing but within status over here with the table view. So you can see what's in focus, active, and archived if you want. And then again over here we can use this to drag and drop and change the OctaCore. But this isn't really the best page. This is why this is labeled with the red check mark, because every time you edit something to here, it will instantly disappear. So a better place to do that is the today page. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Be aware of the red checks and that it's not the best place to edit or add pages, because yeah, if I try to add pages to yesterday's notes, that doesn't make any sense. Cool. Let's go on to today, which is probably the one you'll be using the most. And again, we have this week's projects, and what I would do practically when I look at my day, when I come to this page, is look at what day it is. And let's say today is Wednesday. I'm going to close these up just to be able to see everything a lot more clearly and be like, okay, today all I need to do is get car insurance and set up a bank account. That's it. I can also come here and set the priority or have a look at the priority of what I was doing. And all of those things were in waiting, so that's fine. Cool. And then I can go into today's tasks and pretty much do the same. I can have a look at the status of all of them. You've got your priority, and this is what I wanted to mention to you. We've got the plan over here. So let me start putting things in. And so over here, this is like a very low level way of time blocking. You can adjust what tasks you have based on the time, or whether it's a quick task like checking emails in the morning or something, or in the morning you can have like your gym routine, and you can have the afternoon, the evening. You can just easily use these different placeholders to figure out when you're going to do these things. It's a bit lower level than using the calendar or Notion calendar to do that, but it's still very important to figure out when you're going to do these things, because you might have a lot on your plate that you might just be giving yourself way too much to do in one day. So you want to be careful of that. Cool. And I can also, like I said before, see all of today's notes, and you'll notice that all of these have blue marks on them on the database tabs, because this is where we want to edit this information. Like I said, we were looking at editing these notes by drag and dropping them into the different areas of OctaCore. And that's fine to do in this page, but in the previous page where it says yesterday, they would disappear and they would come here because we edited them. So yeah, exactly the same views. And remember, you can click into these just to see it away from everything else, just to declutter all the things you've got going on. Cool. We can also do some planning for tomorrow. I really like this with tasks in particular, where I can come here and set up tomorrow's tasks. It's really good if you do this. If you get in the habit of planning your day ahead of the day, if you have the time for it, you'll be able to just have so much more focus and clarity and get more done, because preparation is everything. It's the number one thing that I learned within my chefing apprenticeship. Cool. So we've got the tomorrow page, which is really simple. You don't have notes for tomorrow because, yeah, that wouldn't make sense. And yeah, cool. So we're finally onto this week. And now, don't want to bang the camera up. We've already done the overview of this week's projects, and now it's literally the same with this week's tasks. And remember, the same thing that I taught you about this day tab is exactly the same as with the project. If I try to make a task here, it won't show in Monday, because it's not Monday today, it's Wednesday. It will show here in Wednesday. Yeah, it will show there in Wednesday. So just keep that in mind. But with these other ones that have the blue check mark, we are absolutely cool to organize them according to these. So I can just be like, yeah, put these in line and figure out what is the actual priority. And also see it like this, so I can close everything else. Just see this one here. Just gonna leave a space between these so it doesn't look so distracting. Cool. We can also see the achievements we've had for this whole week. And again, an OctaCore breakdown of all the tasks that we've done this week. And that's really helpful, especially because you won't always have a project complete in the span of days, but you'll definitely have tasks that you'll have done, and quite a lot of them if you're using this to its fullest effect. Because the thing is, you actually want to be putting in all the tasks that you've done. Like literally, if you're watching an episode of something, if you're listening to a podcast, whatever, like honestly, those things I would put as achievements in themselves. Like if I just started watching something, or if I finished an episode of a podcast, I would put it as an intelligence achievement, but I would also put it here as a task. And it might sound a bit tedious to you, but really, there is no other way that you will have such a good understanding of how you feel about what you do during your day-to-day by using the OctaCore framework. So that's why I recommend to put all your tasks in that you do, whether it's meditation, which be LifeForce, whether it's, spending time with someone close to you in attachment, whether it's, again, like learning anything in intelligence, literally going to work, contribution, doing something creative, having an experience, doing a morning or night routine, and training or looking after your physical health. Like all of these different ways that we can, reinforce that we are building up a stack of proof that we are improving. I think that's really important. So that's why I put that there for you, just for you to give yourself that, recognition. Cool. And so next is next 7 days. Next 7 days is just a very brief overview of what's going to be happening in the next 7 days in terms of our projects and in terms of our tasks. Again, we don't have notes here because that wouldn't make sense. They are literally the same as the other short-term views, and that's quite intentional. With each of these views, once you get used to these icons, and I will admit, it will look like, whoa, that's quite a lot at the start. But literally, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 for the achievements. It's 5 different ways of seeing our information. And then there's just sub-outlets of ways that we can see that same information. Cool. And then we have this month, finally. And especially for this month, God, looking at that thing gets me every time. Especially looking at this month, This is the point where you really want to appreciate all the things you've done within the weeks. And again, reflect and have a look at the achievements you made in the whole month by, coming here, and maybe you want to change the pictures to show all the awesome things you've done, or you want to set the tier list by, let's say, actually getting car insurance was a huge thing because I actually almost got into a crash the other day. So if I didn't do that, I would have been way more freaked out, something like that. Cool. So you've got a tier list, which you can see in a like a collage view as well. And you can also see the OctaCore distribution of your whole month. And remember, if you don't want to just drag down like this, it's easier if you just use the picture view to give you that, visual representation, which is why you want to change the pictures on here. And remember, it's really easy. You just go to Unsplash and find something that's relevant. So what was this? Car insurance. Honestly, I would just either look up a document or a picture of a car. So either do that or like a car. I don't have a... Is that an R35? Oh no, that is not a G. Oh, it might be actually. Yeah, I think it's R35. But yeah, I do not have that, but that would be funny if that's the picture I would use for my car insurance. Oh, you can find your car possibly. But yeah, this view over here will show you a breakdown of the week that you've had. And again, you've got the choice of looking at with all the information tied to it, or just the collage view. And so the way that this works is that it will detect the week that you've done this on. So this month is according to the month that we are currently in. So if I change the date to further on, then it will populate here. And the cool thing about this is that I can drag and drop these things into different columns like that. Just remember that this thing will always pop up, and remember to click Don't Remove Sorting. So yeah, I can just drag and drop them. When I do that, it will set the date based on the start date of the week. So remember that, it says the 4th. Yeah, it will just make it based on that. And whenever there is no week there, it will automatically hide it. So if you don't see the week that you have already, and I mentioned this is why it has an orange here. I mentioned this in the tutorial drop down here. If you can't see the week that you want to have a breakdown of, it means that you don't have a project in here that is achieved on that week. So let's say I move this to the week between the 11th and 17th. Now it's going to show there. So just keep that in mind when you're playing around with this. Cool. And for this month's projects, it is exactly the same as the this week view, but because it's on a larger time horizon, you're going to have a lot more. So I've broken it down between the weeks, just like we did here. And just remember, it won't automatically show you every week in this month. You have to have a project with the date between those weeks for the week to show up. I hope you understand by the example instead of the words, because I know the words are a bit confusing. So let's clear this date from here. So you get that if I don't have a date in that week, it disappears. But as soon as I add a project with a date in that week, it will reappear. So let me press Ctrl-Z, and the date is there. So just keep that in mind. We can also see a status view of all the projects that have a date within this month, which is really nice, especially with the table view or the gallery view here. And something that's really handy, especially in prioritizing what you need to do in this whole month, is using the priority matrix within the priority tab here, which shows you the status on the left and the priority on the is it X or Y axis? Oh my god, I can't remember. I think it's the X axis. Yeah, just horizontally it shows you this. And then you have a octa-core breakdown, but in this one it does it based on the status, right? It will do it based on the status. So you can see what is complete and what is in progress. So that's a breakdown of this month's projects. This month's tasks is pretty much the same. We can see it within these different views. We've got that week view again. We've got the status views. We can come here with the priority. And we have the board view of that. And then the notes are exactly the same, but these are red because you don't really want to be editing it in the whole month view. Just be careful when you do, and keep that in mind. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the short-term views. So this is the views that you want to be using on a daily basis, especially with the today page and this week, and for you to really meticulously plan things out, because once you get past a month, it becomes really hard to make plans because you don't know what is going to happen this month that will affect the next month, and so on and so forth. So the next tutorial that we're going to do together is the year and season views, and within them they are really for doing mainly reflections, and you can do a little bit of planning in those pages, but remember that the further out you try and plan your months, the hazier it's going to be. You can give yourself a rough guideline of what you would like to do, but let's say you spend an hour planning what you're going to do 2 months ahead, and then by the time it comes to that month, everything in your life has changed, and it's a bit like you've wasted that hour. Whereas if you plan for tomorrow, it's not as bad. If you plan for next week, it's not as bad. If you plan for this month, again, not as bad. But as I go further into that time horizon, it becomes less and less obvious what is going to stay the same. So especially within life game design, I recommend you just stick to planning in these pages over here. So that's it for the short-term views. Last kind of instructional tutorial of how to use the whole scope of life game design is the year and season views, and there's a lot of stuff in there, especially within the reflection of the achievements, that I can't wait to show you. So